Hello, fellow world language teachers. This is Adam Ray, and I'm happy that you've taken the time to watch this video today. So what I want to talk about is pronunciation. In my experience, both learning and teaching foreign languages, I've discovered that fears about pronunciation often inhibit students' advancement in learning a language. And while the four fluencies of language learning, um, speaking, understanding, reading, and writing all work together, I found that especially with native speakers of Western European languages, Spanish, Portuguese, uh, French, and German, that fears of mispronouncing English words often limit their willingness to try. And so to that end, I try to focus heavily on pronunciation, strategies for making English sounds, and I do that in a variety of ways. The first thing I try to do with these speakers is uh, remind them that English is a morphologically very complex language. And the flip of that is also very helpful. When you are teaching Spanish, let's say, to a native English speaker, there's a tendency naturally to utilize what they believe to be English phonetical rules to pronounce Spanish letters. So the letter H in Spanish is silent, and you have a verb like hacer, which means to do. But many students tend to say hacer, they pronounce the H, and so on. So I try to remind them that they're lucky as students, in a sense, that they are native English speakers, and that English is much more morphologically complex than Spanish or uh, most other Western European languages. The linguists that I've read argue that English has either 43 or 44 unique sounds. I personally actually think it's less than that, because I think the U in up and the A in America are actually the same sound, but some linguists disagree on that. So whether it's 39, 40, or 44 distinct sounds, it's quite a bit more than Spanish. The one real difficulty that I find with a lot of English speakers trying to learn Spanish is with the letter R, the sound. Doesn't exist in English, right? Our R is actually quite related physically to our W in the way that it is pronounced, or ra and wa. It's not much of a difference with muscle movement. So I try to work very carefully with that with students when I notice a need, in that the R sound in Spanish is placed by putting the tongue behind the top row of the teeth and kind of vibrating air. It's one of the few sounds in Spanish that vibrates in a physical sense. So it's romper. And I try to remind students that the letter R kind of always vibrates in Spanish, at least to a degree, relative to English anyway. And then when it's a double R, or at the beginning of a word, like romper, to break, or arreglar, to fix, the rolling is a little stronger. So these are the things I try to do when I'm helping students with pronunciation. I try to very much focus on specific things that I know can improve the way that they are understood, without worrying so much about accent or diction, but focusing heavily on these types of rules. The double L, for example, I tend to pronounce that with the J sound, yeah, llámame, ella, but Spanish speakers, depending on where they are, might pronounce that as more of an L sound, like a Y sound, not an L sound, ella. Or if they're from the southern part of South America, they might say it with an SH, esha. So I try to have students keep those things in mind, explore their creativity a little bit, and then work on muscle movements while being mindful of the different ways in which sounds are produced and are represented by written letters. I hope this video has been somewhat helpful, and be honored to hear any feedback or related commentary.